Preston Gallagher Gallagher III. I have something to tell you.
Yes? What is it, Wicker Basket?
I'm in love.
But Wicker Basket, I thought you loved me. I thought we were going to get married and make it to home plate when the full moon shines down on us.
No, Charles Wolfheart the 17th. I am in love with you. It was a misunderstanding.
But she would never get to explain, because as he ran out in true passion, Charles Wolfheart the 17th got hit by a train. This and more on
Love Try High.
We've all undoubtedly seen comics like the one we just saw, filled with dumb names we either can't pronounce or that are just out of place, misunderstandings, love triangles, and many, many other tropes. And while some people like these things, I personally don't like a lot of the common Webtoon tropes we all know and love. Today I'm going to be talking about my 5 least favorite Webtoon tropes and why I hate them. First up on the chopping block is main characters with dumb names that are comically frilly or that you literally cannot pronounce. I will say the only exception to this rule is if the comic takes place in another non-American country where names are just different to how we say names here and they have meaning behind how you say the names. Like comics that take place in South Korea and Japan where the names are said in a different order and they have more meaning behind how you say them. I'm talking about those high fantasy cookie cutter comics where the main cutter has the absolute most out of pocket name that does not make sense in the context of the comic. It really gives off self-insert or OC vibes where you can tell the main character is a Mary Sue girl boss. And this is a common thing I've been seeing in Webtoon comics more and more. And it's basically a given that my low reading level is just going to make up a new name for the comically stupid one being told to me in the first place.
As a matter of fact, I'm starting to think we need to intervene on you for your goddamn illiteracy.
Yeah, Charlie, you are getting real dumb.
Come on, all right, see, this is what I'm talking about, illiteracy. You know, what does that word even mean?
Look. These are just a few of the examples I took from Webtoon's homepage. So it's not very hard to find stuff like this. In Not Your Typical Reincarnation, it probably is your typical reincarnation, we have Suna Choi and Edith Regalhoff. So I guess Suna reincarnates as Edith. Shoot, man, she picked a name to reincarnate into. Now we have a comic called Stare Down, with the main characters Nil and Pass. That's right, a character whose name is basically just Pez. I think if I were to read this comic, I would probably end up calling one Neil and the other one Paul, because those are normal names that I can actually read. Then, in The Fateful Invasion, the main character's name is Hilaria? Wait, really? I actually went to look up if this was a popular name, and it turns out the way the Webtoon author spelled it is wrong according to Google. So I guess we're both dyslexic. I think if I were reading this comic, I'd probably just call her Hillary, you know, because in my head that's a normal name. The next trope I hate that I see pretty commonly on Webtoon are misunderstandings that could have easily been avoided. I strongly dislike misunderstandings. Most of the time, the characters in a comic are adults themselves, so they should be a lot better at communication than they are. And when they can't just tell each other something simple, it pisses me off. Color me crazy. I just want a more complex explanation for something rather than everything being okay if and when the misunderstanding gets unmisunderstood. I am a lady who hates to let things go on and on needlessly, so when I want or need something that requires another person being involved, I'll tell them, most times. That's how my spouse and I started dating. I asked if we were, he shrugged, and so I told him we were. Problem solved. No misunderstandings that the brothers or any male contact in my phone is actually another love interest until I tell my spouse otherwise. No misunderstandings that me buying a meal for two is for another secret lover that I don't think my spouse can provide for me. I'm just a fat ass. I think that the I misunderstood the situation trope is bad, tacky, and annoying, and it ultimately boils down to a waste of time for the readers that really leads people nowhere in a story. It's just lazy writing. Let's take episode 162 of Down to Earth, for example. Alien girl Zay wants Cade to send a letter to another man for her. Cade says yes, but is worried it's a love letter. He reads it, it's not, and has the opportunity to tell her his true feelings for her, and doesn't, leading the comic to continue for an indefinite amount of time. This entire comic can basically boil down to Cade wanting that alien.
Why don't we all just fuck each other?
The third trope I hate is one I'm sure a lot of us can actually get behind: the love triangle. I dislike these mainly for the reason it metaphorically edges the reader for the entirety of the comic for literally no reason other than it drives up engagement for the creator. These love triangles usually fall victim to the other trope I previously mentioned, the misunderstanding. While the main character is busy deciding who to bang, there are usually misunderstandings between them and the other two they are in love with. Usually the love triangle is also the main source of contention for the entire comic, making a long, drawn-out love story boring and monotonous for the reader.
2,000 years later.
Here's a love triangle I absolutely detest. I like a boy, but he's kind of mean to me sometimes and very possessive. He does give me lots of nice gifts, and he was nice to me when we were kids, though. You know how I'll solve this problem? Fall in love with a literal child and become conflicted about my feelings between the two for the entire comic. Or at least until the author gets bored and decides to actually progress the story. This is a real comic on Webtoon. To you who swallowed a star, I'm looking right at you. Just because the child turns into an adult and then they start dating, that doesn't mean there was no grooming involved in the first place. Unless the two love interests start a fight over the main character, or you roleplay as the main character when they're with the ship of your choosing, that's basically the only time you get any actual entertainment from these types of comics. So never, basically.
Tomoko, I love you.
But Tomoko, I also love you.
But now two of us love you. Who will you choose?
Why don't we all just fuck each other?
My fourth trope could be considered a misunderstanding, but I call it the almost found each other trope. It's very specific, and I absolutely hate it with every fiber of my being. If any, show, comic, movie, book has this thing, I am guaranteed to fucking hate it. It's when two characters who are searching for each other barely miss finding each other. I'm telling you, nothing makes me angrier at a fictional character than having me yell at a screen to just turn around or look in a specific direction to find what they're looking for, and they don't. And things continue on as per usual. Making things super long and drawn out when they literally didn't have to be. I can actually remember the very first time I saw this happen. I was watching An American Tail when I was 12, and they missed each other by a second. And the girl mouse, the sister, I don't remember, I've never watched the movie since because it pissed me off so much, has the audacity to be like, "Oh, I thought I heard his voice." Shut up! Shut up, you stupid mouse. Y'all were just looking for him, hoping for an answer back. That's why you call out a mouse's name, and then you just ignore it. No wonder y'all got lost in the first place. You deserve to be lost with how dumb and stupid you are. I'm not gonna lie, these mice are all useless. I just hate this trope so much. Like, please, use your eyes, turn your head, wait a second longer, yell one more time, and I swear half the comics in this site wouldn't have a reason to continue on the journey. Something that goes along with this trope is yelling and something louder drowns them out. It's dumb. Stop pulling that bullshit. My fifth and last trope I dislike is the almost happened, where something important almost happens. The two characters almost kiss, but then some dumb, insignificant noise makes them stop. Or a character almost gets hit by a bus conveniently at the end of the chapter, forcing the readers to have to wait a week to find out. And then it's not even the main focus of the next, 18 chapters. Basically, something significant that would change the course of the story almost happens, and then it doesn't. What was the point of it happening in the first place? What? I don't actually have any jokes for this. It's just... I think the main reason all of these tropes bother me is because it contributes to my least favorite webtoon, trope of all time. Having a long, drawn-out story where nothing actually happens until the last 10 chapters of a 100+ chapter story. I guess that's less of a trope and more of a product of the circumstances, though. But Maddie, if you hate webtoons so much, why don't you just stop reading them? But prolonging a story based off of these tropes is terrible. While a lot of you guys might not mind being bothered by these tropes, they're just the ones that personally bother me. The funny thing is that a lot of these tropes can actually work in some cases, but not in lieu of actual storytelling. One of my favorite episodes of Space Dandy actually does my least favorite trope, the almost find each other, and does it well, because that's the point of Space Dandy. A silly little self-contained story that subverts expectations and doesn't follow the traditional path most animes take. I think if you have a story to tell, don't drag it out as long as you can, because then... Whew, that was close. Because then you run the risk of ruining the actual story part of a story. I have been reading this comic since 2017. What do you think? Do you like these tropes? Are there any that you think should be talked about more often? If you like my video, feel free to